Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is part 2 of the behind the scenes of me creating my very first pattern collection. And I'm so excited because today we are going to dive into creating a pattern. So creating the artwork, and then I'm going to scan it in and digitize it and then show you how I'll create a repeating seamless pattern. I'm going to be doing an all over pattern, which just means that kind of like a scatter effect. And scatter patterns are really great patterns to begin with because they're just real organic and you can just kind of go with the flow with this style of pattern. I'm first going to begin by watercoloring the elements, the motifs, and then I'm going to scan them in and digitize them and then show you how I'm going to create this all over scatter pattern. In the previous part 1 video, I brought you through my why for creating this pattern collection, as well as the creative brief and the process that I'm going to be using to complete this pattern. So I put together this free creative brief for you. If you would like to grab that, I'm going to link it below here, and that is going to be your roadmap for starting to create a collection. If you ever hear any funny noises in the background, that is my super fun, cute pup that we have here. So just so you know, if you ever hear any groans, that is where it's coming from. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get to painting the motifs before we are ready to scan and actually create the pattern. I am over here at my painting table and I just grabbed actually an old scrap piece of watercolor paper. It is just a student grade paper, so it's not my tip-top favorite for painting portraits of any kind, but it's going to be perfect because this is artwork that I'm going to scan and digitize anyways. So I just grabbed that, as well as then my palette that I have more of the like landscape and floral colors. So I am working with a certain color palette within this collection. So I have to the left of me that you cannot see right now is my brand board, as well like my mood board and my sketches I have over here, just so I have those as a reference. When it comes to creating this first pattern, I am going to do an all over scatter pattern of some dainty florals. I might just paint a bunch of different things. This is where we're just going to paint a bunch of different motifs, and then once I go to scan it in, I'll have that as assets to be able to design the collection with. And I'm going to start by just painting a few little dainty florals. So this one is just going to have a really simple yellow center to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint a few florals. I did not sketch these out. Sketching is always kind of tough because then you really have to work hard when you go to digitize the florals or your illustrations to get rid of any pencil lines. Those are something that you definitely don't want to see. So I'm just going to paint a couple different angles of this type of flower. I might leave a little bit of room just so I have some ability to create the stems later. I just want to have options. I don't necessarily have to use all these flowers, but I just want to have them available so I don't have to go back and paint them again. So the style I'm going for is fairly loose. I think it'll be a really effective style for when I go to create this pattern. I'm probably going to scale it back pretty small since I'm going for more of a dainty. So dainty meaning just, you know, delicate. So I might do something super simple like that. This one I'll do just like this. I'd add a couple different leaves to this one. So there's two different motifs with florals. Now I will create a few stems just so I have those to be able to play with. I might want to add some leaves somewhere. So this part of the process is just about having fun. Be really free-flowing and just creative. So just having fun with creating all different types of motifs and pieces. if you ever have a mess up, don't worry, because we'll clean that up in Photoshop. It's my plan to kind of make up for those little imperfections and mistakes if I don't like them. So I think I need a little bit more greenery to be able to play with this pattern. So I'm just going to continue to paint a few more stems. So I'm going to actually do some paintings of butterflies. Butterfly turned out pretty cute. I don't know if I'm fully done with it, but I like how loose, and it just looks like a really yummy summer butterfly. So I am just going to, I might add just a few little dots to it to create a little bit of interest. I am still trying to figure out the exact style of this pattern collection, so just seeing it kind of come to life. I like the way that those dots overlaid this really basic base layers that I have here, so I think I'll go ahead and do the same for these florals and just add a little more detail to like the leaves and whatnot. Next, to kind of go along with the bug theme, I might add a little bee. Alright, that bee I thought turned out so cute. So then now I have quite a few pieces to work with. I'm not sure it's everything that I want quite yet. Might need to add a little bit of tweaks, but again, I can always do that once I get it scanned in. I can alter my artwork once I get into Illustrator and Photoshop. But sometimes it's just fun to get those brush strokes that you can't quite get through a digital drawing. So that's what I'm going to do right here, is just add a few little details to these petals. Okay, so here I have a variety of illustrations, from florals to greenery pieces to bugs, and I'm going to stop painting here. I could go on for hours, and I think it would be very helpful if I did continue to paint, but for the sake of this video, I want to get to the creation process and seeing how these pieces look digitized, because they are watercolor. So I am going to now move over to my computer and scan these in, and then begin to cut them out in Photoshop and see how they look both in Photoshop and in Illustrator. Alright, so now I'm over here in Photoshop, and I'm going to actually scan all of my artwork directly into Photoshop is how I do this. So once I get my document scanned in, and I actually have to scan in multiple sheets because my scanning bed is not big enough for the entire piece of paper. And then once I get my document here, I am going to begin by cutting out every single piece that I painted here. So I want these to be individual pieces that I can play with. So I gotta cut them out from the background. I'm doing this with the lasso tool. And once I have the selection made, I am actually going to do copy and then click File, New, and it's going to pull open the exact dimensions of the selection I just made, and then I'll click Paste to get my graphic into this new document. And from here, I still need to get rid of that watercolor paper, and I'll do that by clicking Command, click onto the layer 1 there, and then I will, with the lasso tool, do a right click and do a select mask. This is one of my favorite ways that I digitize all of my scanned in watercolor artwork. So what it's doing is it's doing a refine edge, and it is eliminating any of those white pixel areas and detecting the edge of my artwork. So it's like magic. So it's just going to layer mask. So I'm not actually erasing it, because that, when you erase, damages your artwork and you cannot go back from that. So I am just, as you can see, getting rid of that background. And once I get all of these pixels out of there, I can always clean it up later with the layer mask. I'll do an OK. I'll click OK. And then from there, I will have the selection made, and I will go down to the layer mask button, and voila, it is cut out from its background. And sometimes the refine edge tool will take away too much of the artwork, and since we did not actually erase what we just did from the actual file, I can easily bring it back. Just go over and grab the brush tool and make sure that I'm on the white color, and it is going to bring that artwork right back. Okay, so over here I am doing a save as to my computer of each individual piece of artwork, and I'm preserving the original Photoshop file, and I'll also be exporting it as a PNG file. So here I am just going to continue to do this for every single graphic. This is probably foreign to you if you are not familiar with Photoshop and all of the tools. I am putting together a full digitizing mini course of all the secrets that I have learned, and I would love for you to get on the sign up. I am currently putting it together right now, so you can go ahead and in the description below, or get on the wait list for the digitizing course. So now that I have finished exporting every single one of these graphics without their background, so I'm saving them as a PNG file, I am then going to head on over to Illustrator, where I am going to build this pattern out. So what I'll do is just open up a working document. It doesn't matter the size. I already had one started. So then I'll navigate to my Finder and just drag and drop all of those PNG files that I have just exported from Photoshop. So here I am with all of my individual pattern graphics. From here, I am just going to pull these pieces apart. I am going to be working with an actual watercolor PNG file for this specific pattern. There are multiple ways to build a pattern, and vectorizing artwork is very handy, but for this specific pattern that I am testing out and playing with, I'm going to keep the actual file, the original artwork file, as a PNG file. I'll go into greater detail on this on a different tutorial, but for now, what it means is that I cannot size these graphics any larger than they are scanned in. So I can go smaller, but without destroying or ruining resolution, I need to keep them no bigger than they are when they are scanned in. All right, so now that I have each individual piece that I can kind of see and laid out, next what I'll need to do is create a document, or what I'm going to do is stay in the same document and create a new artboard. So there's a little handy artboard button right here, and I'll just simply start by dragging one out, and then I will get specific, very specific. I'm going to make this 10 inches by 10 inches. So it's very important to have a symmetrical shape, so like a square. And now I'll begin to start designing my pattern, which is the fun and can be a lengthy process. So I'm just grabbing my files and I will continue to copy them, rotate them, just start to get them placed. And it's kind of fun to see the puzzle of a pattern come together. And so what I'm doing is just trying to see if I can get them to fit nicely with each other. And so definitely rotating, reflecting horizontally and vertically all the pieces, so it creates a little bit of interest. But again, this is a scatter pattern, so there's no true direction per se for this pattern, and it's just going to have elements that are scattered about the document. So I will just continue to work and play around with this design. I'll just let you watch me work. So once I have gotten a good amount of my pattern flow figured out, I'm not going to finish covering the entire square. So what I'm focusing on is filling up the bottom and the left sides that the pattern graphics will touch. I don't want to touch anything to the top and the right side. So as you can see, I'm just going to add a few more graphics so I don't feel like I have any weird gaps, because then this is the magic of creating a pattern. In order to make it seamless, it needs to be reflected and repeatable both on the top and the right side. So then we have a tile per se to work with. Okay, so once I have both the bottom and the left sides filled in, I am going to first focus on the bottom part. So I will select anything that is touching the bottom edge of this artboard. So all I did was drag and select at the very edge. And what I'm going to do is then do a right click and go to transform. And we are going to click move. And then this is where we are going to put in the dimensions of the square size I'm working with. So I'm working with a 10 by 10 square. In the vertical section, I am actually going to type in -10, as well as in the horizontal, making sure that's not going to move side to side. So it's got to be 0. From there, with the preview on, I am going to click copy. And that is going to copy that selection and move it exactly the dimensions that I specified. So now I might have a little trouble if some of those pieces are going to overlap, some of those pieces I have on the side. So I'm just going to rearrange and not quite so crowded. So once I get the left side to how I like it and spaced out, looking pretty, I am going to do the same process as I did for the bottom half by selecting everything that is touching that left edge, including even that little piece that looks on the top and bottom. I'm going to do the right click, transform, move, and this time I want to make sure it's not going to go up and down, so vertical 0 and then +10. And then clicking that copy, it's going to move those pieces to the right side of this document. So now you'll see that I have a gap from the top and right edge of this square, and that is now what I'm going to fill in with my pieces for my pattern, just so it looks like it's a nice seamless piece. right, here we are. I think I am finished. It looks like a really pretty balanced scatter pattern. So from here, what I'm going to do is export this artboard. So I'm going to export it as a ping because I don't want the white background. If I did want a background, would include some color, but I just want the actual fabric to shine through on this pattern. So again, exporting it, I'm going to use the artboard it's on, which is number 2. And here we are. So now I have my tile, repeating tile, exported, and I'm going to hop back over into Photoshop. And it doesn't matter the document size you create for this because now it's just going to be a repeated tile. So for the sake of this video, I'll just make it 20 by 20, which is double the size of the actual pattern tile, just so you can see how it looks repeated and seamless. I will drag in that tile swatch I just exported from Illustrator and click enter to place it, and watch as I copy and drag it and hold shift because that keeps it all in alignment. And voila, here we are with a seamless pattern. I love the way that this turned out. I think it is so sweet and dainty. See, if I zoom in here, this is always a great check to see and make sure that there is no seam, like a white pixel seam, and it all looks great. So I can really create a fabric now from this pattern. I hope you really enjoyed seeing this part 2 of creating a pattern collection. I now have created my very first pattern in this collection, and I'm so excited. This is like a dream come true to be able to create fabric out of your own artwork. I really hope you'll be able to give this a try yourself. Don't forget to grab the free creative brief that I put together. In the next video, I'm going to show you part 3 of how this pattern could be transformed and see it really come to life. And I cannot wait to see what it looks like printed on fabric. Thanks so much for being here, and I hope you really enjoyed today's video. If you did, I would love it so much if you could hit the like button and then also hit subscribe so then I can see you next week, and I can't wait to continue learning how to create a pattern together. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you next week.